Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks exciting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. Oh, and just one more thing before we go. Please consider like, commenting, and subscribing if you enjoy the video. But now with all that out of the way, let's carry on with the video. Okay, so in this video what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a cliffside base, and of course what you need first of all is a base. Now what I'm using here to start off with our cliffside is I'm going to be using some cork here. So this here is from a craft store, and this is cork from a coaster that they have there, taken apart, makes great use for what we do here. And of course I'm going to be applying it with some podge as you see, and then it's just a matter of coming in and picking out what pieces of the cliff you want for your side and your levels. It's just a matter of going around, finding out pieces, and then tearing them off. As you can see, I'm slowly going through here, looking and seeing what I think looks good, but I also practical enough that I've got to put a mini on top as well, so keeping that in mind as well. And this base here is a 40mm base. It's just a little bit bigger, just so I can show you a good size range, and looks a little bit better on camera than if I was to do it on a little 25mm base or a big massive base. So it's sort of just a good size indicator from what you can see here to get a good variation, and I can keep it nice and focused in on camera, hopefully anyway. So it's just a matter of coming in, finding the shapes you want within your piece of cork. This is probably going to be mostly necessary, especially if you want it for cliffside. I find that they give nice like hard edges off as cliffs do, and especially just tearing it a little bits away with your finger as well is going to really help sell that effect as well. So don't forget to do that when you apply it, and try and make it look semi organic. You don't want to be cutting out squares or anything like that, just going in, pinching out, and then whatever happens to tear off is what you want for your edges. And then of course to be making it a cliffside base, we want to be applying other little bits and pieces on here as well. So it's just a matter of going in with other bits of cork, as you can see, smaller and different shapes to give the appearance of it, different levels. As you can see here, I'm applying other levels to the base. Like I said, I want it to be a cliffside looking base anyway that it's standing on. So multiple levels, different variations, and not the same height. I don't want it to be the same piece over and over again. Different variations, and that's going to help sell the effect that we're going for. Then once we have the basis for our cliffside placed down, what I want to do is I want to harden up all those cliffs edges that I've got here, and what I'm going to be doing is using some super thin super glue to do this. And as you can see, as I dot it on here, it immediately goes down, sucks it up, and then it'll start hardening over time. I prefer doing this on any of my sort of cliffside bases, or even when I'm just using cork in general. I like to stiffen it up. I don't want to have me accidentally dropping the miniature and then bits chipping away over time, or just as I'm working on it, chipping away. And I find giving the super glue there, stiffening it all up, really helps to add to the strength of the cork that we've got placed on here. Then once our super glue is all dried, I've just placed a layer of Mod Podge just all over the top areas, so all the tops of the cliffs, and avoiding the sides as much as possible, as well as the bottom of the base. And as you can see, I'm just using Mod Podge to do this. You could of course use PVA glue as well. I'm using Mod Podge because it dries a little bit faster. And then what I'm doing is I'm grabbing some sand from my driveway that I have here, all sort of sifted out, and I'm using a little Tic Tac container just for as a little bit of control over the place as I'm sprinkling it on. I find this little container really helpful for just spraying over little bits of area with any sort of texture I need on bases, and my hands aren't getting completely covered or smushing it in places I don't want it to be. I find it a nice control. And as you can see, applying it to just the top is going to apply just the texture on the top, because I didn't want it to look like cork just from a distance. I don't want it to be immediately seen as, oh, that's just a cork base. So adding that little bit of texture on top is going to help mask that and give it a more realistic appearance too, so it won't be dead flat on the tops of these areas. Then once we have that, it's time to start priming our base, and all I'm going to be doing here is coming in with some Vallejo surface primer, and I'm just using some black here to of course apply the primer on. Now of course you could spray paint this on, you could airbrush it, you could do exactly what I'm doing here, which is just applying it. And the reason why I'm sort of applying it with a brush is so I can get into all those little nooks and crannies that we've got in there with the different layers of cork on there, and really get into those areas. And I find that the best technique for just getting into all those little areas. Then once we have it fully base coated in the black, I'm going to come in now with some grey primer, which is very light grey, nearly even a white. You could also do this with a white primer. And what I'm doing here is just, of course, giving it sort of like a easy, quick zenithal highlight. I didn't have, it was sort of too wet outside to spray with my spray cans like I usually do, so just coming in and with a dry brush here and sort of just dry brushing over top of it to give it that zenithal appearance. Then once all that grey is dried up, what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be starting off with our first painting step, and this is going to be using some stonewall grey. Now stonewall grey is a very light whitish grey, and it's going to help sell the effect. Now I have done this effect before with this cliff, so I'm going sort of like a white cliffs sort of appearance here with some nice bright green grass eventually on top of it. So you could easily change this up if you want to be nice earthy texture or really dark like grey. There's a lot of different options you can have here, but I'm going with a nice sort of light happy sort of appearance, I guess, is what I'm going for with this. It's sort of a different cliffside than usual with the drab colours. Then once we have that stonewall grey completely base coated everywhere, I'm going to come in with some nuln oil, and I'm going to be using this to wash over everywhere. Now I didn't want to do this with brown. I didn't want to give it a brown appearance. I wanted it to appear as stone cliffs, so that's why I'm going over with the nuln oil and making it more grey than I am brown. Just a little tip there. Washes, of course, can change and alter very drastically how you want to have these cliffs, so totally up to you what you want to do here. You may want to come in with a sepia to come in with a different shade, so what you want to do here, but I want it to be sort of really neutral sort of grey, so that's why I'm coming in with the nuln oil to help get into all those recesses with shadows and give the appearance off that it is just straight sort of light stone. And then as you can see, it's all darkened down, but it's just straight darkened down. I haven't really changed the colour too much. And that's coming back in with stonewall grey and then applying our dry brush over top and giving it that lighter appearance and really lightening it back up by still with the dry brush and keeping those shadowed areas that all that dry brush can't reach, and giving that full effect from the very dark sort of greyish colours we've had with our nuln oil, and then lifting it up with the very bright stonewall white grey that we have here as well. It's just a matter of going in, really getting into all those top areas. And you can see it's going to be as tough as you can since we've got a lot of texture to cover as well. So spend some time in getting it as close to how you want it as you can. And then once we've done that, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be coming in with some ivory. Now, I wasn't quite happy with how the stonewall was working out. I wanted it to be a little bit lighter again, so coming in with ivory and really lightening it up, because like I said, I want it to be sort of like a white cliffs appearance. It's a white, very cliffside, so I'm going in with some ivory and just very sparsely placing this. I don't want it to be completely white. I still want that stonewall grey, and the stonewall grey is my base tone, so just giving it as those little highlights to help boost up that white appearance. Then once we've got our colour of our cliffside done, it's time to add in some of those details here, and I'm going to be using some Warlord Games flower tuft here, and I'm just going to be using just the one, just to be placing it here on this little lone outcropping of the cliff to really help sell the effect. And you can see the tweezers aren't holding it down as much as I want, so I have to come in with the fingers as well to really get it to sit down nicely. Just one to add in a little bit of visual interest. I don't want to be covering it in flowers, it'll start distracting from the actual cliffside. And then once we've done that, it's time to come in with some static grass, and I'm using some summer grass here by Warlord Games, and it's just a matter of coming around and placing it on top. Now, of course, I've used some Mod Podge here. You could use super glue if you wanted to, but I didn't want to risk having it clump up too much, or PVA glue, which takes a long time to dry compared to Mod Podge, so I just wanted to go for that sort of even range, and I've already been using Mod Podge throughout the whole project anyway, so easier just to carry on with what I'm doing here. As you can see, I'm really clumping it on, placing it on to all those areas, really trying to get all those areas, but being very careful to make sure that it's not going to attach to any of the cliff sides too much, and I really just want it on those top layers to really sell the effect that it is growing on the top of these cliffs. And then once you've done that, it's just a matter of tidying up that base and really making that work all come together, and that is of course by painting the rim of the base. And of course you can paint the rim any colour you want, but as long as it's black. But no, totally up to you. Make it based with your army that you've got here. I always like to go with a nice black. I like the colour it gives off and really helps section it off from everywhere else and really help tie everything together in a nice way. And there it is. As you can see, we've completed our cliffside base that we're trying to achieve here. And all I've done is some nice, quick and simple steps to really give off a nice effective base. And as you can see too, you can see it with a miniature placed on it too. This was one I did a little while ago with a stone giant, and really help emphasize what you can do with a bigger base, or like I did here with the demonstration piece, a nice smaller base too, and really enhance the miniatures and really give off a really sort of heroic point for them to stand on the side of the cliff as they're looking out upon their enemy. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, whether you want to follow along with what I did here to make up your nice cliffside base for your own miniature, or just use this video as some inspiration for basing up your own miniatures. But with all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.